Have you ever felt completely exhausted? Not from a grueling physical workout, but just from existing in the modern world. You sleep your 8 hours, you drink your green juice, you check all the conventional wellness boxes, yet you still feel this lingering, low-grade hum of anxiety. What if the missing ingredient to your recovery isn't a new supplement or a trendy biohack, but something completely invisible? Something we have somehow engineered right out of our hyper-independent, modern lives? Today, we are diving into one of the most misunderstood chemicals in the human body. It is famously, and perhaps a bit too simply, dubbed the love hormone. But as we are about to discover, that label barely scratches the surface. We are talking about oxytocin, and how this incredible chemical might just be the ultimate biological antidote to our modern stress epidemic.
It really is the ultimate antidote, and I love that you started with that feeling of inexplicable exhaustion because we tend to treat the human body like a machine or a smartphone. We think, my battery is low, I just need to plug myself into a wall, isolate myself in a quiet room, and recharge. But biologically speaking, humans do not recharge efficiently in total isolation. We are fundamentally wired to recharge through connection. When we lack that genuine connection, our nervous system stays locked in a baseline state of high alert, which actually drains our biological battery even faster.
That is such a profound shift in perspective. We are so conditioned to think of self-care as this solitary pursuit. Taking a bath alone, meditating alone, going for a solo run. And while those things are great, you're saying we are ignoring a massive piece of our own biological puzzle. So let us start by completely dismantling the myth. When people hear oxytocin, they immediately picture romantic dinners, holding hands on a beach, or maybe a mother bonding with her newborn. What exactly is this chemical, and why is the love hormone label holding us back from understanding its true power?
The love hormone label is great for magazine covers, but it is a massive oversimplification. Biologically, oxytocin is a highly sophisticated signaling molecule. Yes, it is heavily involved in romance and maternal bonding, but its primary job is much broader than that. It is the chemical foundation of social trust, emotional safety, and nervous system regulation. It is released during physical affection, sure, but also during deep, supportive conversations, sustained eye contact, and even when you feel truly heard by someone else. Think of oxytocin as your brain's biological all-clear signal. It tells your nervous system, you are safe, you are surrounded by your tribe, you can lower your shields. And importantly, it actively interacts with our body's stress pathways. It is not just a feel-good chemical, it is a structural mechanism for survival.
So it is essentially the biological opposite of the fight-or-flight response. If adrenaline and cortisol are the fire alarms going off in our bodies, oxytocin is the fire blanket that smothers the flames.
That is a brilliant way to put it. Cortisol is our primary stress hormone. It is designed to save your life if you are being chased by a predator. It spikes your heart rate, halts your digestion, and floods your muscles with glucose. But when stress becomes chronic, which is the default state for so many people today, navigating work, finances, and endless notifications, the nervous system gets stuck in that survival mode. You feel anxious, mentally overstimulated, yet physically exhausted. Oxytocin directly intercepts those stress pathways. When you experience healthy social bonding, oxytocin is released, and it actually dampens the cortisol response. It physically lowers your blood pressure and tells your amygdala, the fear center of the brain, to quiet down.
Which makes so much sense when you think about how we feel after venting to a really good friend. You can walk into a room feeling like the weight of the world is on your shoulders, have a deeply honest 20-minute conversation where you feel completely understood, and physically feel lighter walking out. The external problems have not changed at all. The deadline is still there. The bills are still there. But your internal chemistry has completely shifted.
Exactly, because humans regulate each other emotionally and biologically. We are an inherently social species. From an evolutionary perspective, human beings did not survive because we had the sharpest claws or the thickest skin. We survived through cooperation, community, and social trust. For our ancestors, being isolated from the tribe meant almost certain death. Wandering alone in the wilderness was the ultimate danger. So, our brains evolved to reward connection with safety signals. and to punish isolation with stress signals.
That is absolutely fascinating. And honestly, a little terrifying when you look at how we live today. Modern society practically idolizes extreme independence. We celebrate the lone wolf, the self-made individual who needs no one. We live in single-occupancy apartments. We order our groceries through an app to avoid talking to a cashier. We work remotely, and we pride ourselves on not needing to rely on anyone. Are we essentially putting ourselves into a state of chronic biological panic without even realizing it?
We absolutely are, and the data reflects this clearly. The brain interprets prolonged social isolation the exact same way it interprets physical danger. It is a biological threat. Chronic loneliness elevates cortisol levels, increases systemic inflammation, and compromises the immune system. We often think of loneliness as just a sad emotional state, but it is actually a state of physical wear and tear. It is biologically painful. The brain uses the same neural pathways to process social rejection and isolation as it does to process physical pain. That is why a broken heart or deep loneliness actually physically hurts in your chest.
Wow. So emotional safety is not just some fluffy psychological concept. It is a hard, measurable hormonal reality. If you do not feel emotionally safe, your body is literally breaking itself down, preparing for an attack that is never coming.
Precisely. The body is constantly scanning the environment, asking a few primal questions. Am I safe? Can I relax here? Can I trust the people around me? If the answer is no, or if there is no one around to even ask, the nervous system remains activated. This is why you can have the perfect diet, the perfect exercise routine, and the most optimized sleep environment, but if you are living in an emotionally toxic environment, whether that is a hostile workplace, a strained relationship, or profound isolation, your body will still exhibit all the markers of chronic stress.
I want to pivot slightly to something you mentioned earlier, which is physical touch, because this seems like another area where modern life has completely deviated from our biology. Aside from romantic partners or our children, physical touch has almost vanished from daily adult life. We might bump elbows or give a stiff handshake, but genuine, comforting touch is rare. Why is touch so critical to this oxytocin equation?
Because touch is arguably the oldest communication system in biology. Long before humans developed complex spoken language, we communicated safety, empathy, and alliance through touch. When you experience safe, consensual physical touch like a warm hug, holding hands, or even just a reassuring hand on the shoulder, specialized nerve fibers in your skin, called C-tactile afferents, send immediate signals to the brain. This triggers a rapid release of oxytocin, which instantly lowers heart rate and calms the nervous system. The impact is profound. We evolved in environments where physical closeness was a constant. We slept huddled together, we groomed each other, we worked side by side.
It is almost tragic when you put it that way. We have traded the biological warmth of the tribe for the cold efficiency of the modern world. And it makes me think about the irony of our current era. We are technically more connected than any generation in human history. We have smartphones buzzing in our pockets all day long, delivering texts, emails, and social media updates from thousands of people. Yet, all the surveys show that loneliness is at an all-time high. Why isn't this digital connection triggering our oxytocin? Why doesn't a text message feel like a hug?
That is the ultimate modern paradox, and the answer lies in how our biology evolved to recognize connection. Digital stimulation is not genuine biological connection. It is the equivalent of eating junk food when you are starving for nutrients. Social media and digital notifications trigger dopamine, the neurotransmitter associated with novelty, reward, and seeking behavior. Dopamine gives you a quick hit of excitement, but it does not trigger oxytocin. Oxytocin requires the nuances of real human presence, the micro-expressions on someone's face, the tone and cadence of their voice, the shared physical space, and yes, touch.
So scrolling through a feed and getting 100 likes on a photo gives you a sugar rush of dopamine, but leaves you completely malnourished of oxytocin. You feel hyperstimulated, but entirely alone.
That is an excellent analogy. You are eating empty emotional calories. And the problem is, because we are getting so much of that dopamine stimulation, we trick ourselves into thinking we are socializing. We spend 3 hours on an app and feel exhausted, assuming we have had social interaction, but our nervous system is still screaming for actual regulation. This is why people feel hyper-connected online but deeply isolated internally. The nervous system cannot be fooled by an avatar or a text bubble. It knows the difference between a pixelated screen and a breathing human being.
This brings up a really deep philosophical question about the future of our society. We are building technologies that make it easier and easier to avoid physical human interaction. Virtual reality, AI companions, remote everything. If our biology fundamentally requires physical presence and emotional safety to regulate stress, what happens to us as a species if we keep moving down this path? Are we just going to become chronically inflamed, anxious, and sleep-deprived?
That is the exact crisis we are facing in modern healthcare. We are seeing epidemic levels of burnout, autoimmune issues, and sleep disorders, and we keep trying to medicate the symptoms without addressing the root cause. The root cause is that our biological hardware is completely mismatched with our modern software. We are trying to run a Pleistocene-era nervous system in a hyper-digital 24/7 economy. And you mentioned sleep, which is the perfect barometer for all of this. Sleep is when the brain and body perform their most critical maintenance. But you cannot enter deep, restorative sleep if your nervous system does not feel safe.
Because if the brain thinks you are alone in the wilderness, surrounded by predators, shutting down completely into deep sleep would be a terrible survival strategy.
Exactly. Your brain will keep you in lighter stages of sleep, easily awakened, constantly scanning for danger. This is why people who are experiencing high emotional stress, relationship instability, or profound loneliness often suffer from terrible sleep quality. They might be in bed for 8 hours, but they wake up exhausted. Conversely, stable, supportive relationships and a sense of emotional safety drastically improve deep sleep and recovery. The brain finally says, "The tribe is keeping watch. I am safe. I can power down."
It really underscores the idea that wellness cannot be achieved in a vacuum. We have this multi-trillion-dollar wellness industry focused on individual metrics. We track our macros, we count our steps, we monitor our heart rate. But we cannot just optimize our way out of biological loneliness.
You cannot. And interestingly, the very technology we use to track our individual health is starting to prove this point. Wearable technologies that track heart rate variability, or HRV, are becoming incredibly popular. HRV is a fantastic metric for assessing nervous system balance. And what people are discovering, often to their surprise, is that their HRV drops when they are isolated or in toxic social environments, and it improves significantly when they spend quality, relaxed time with people they love and trust. The body is revealing the truth of our chronic stress long before our conscious minds want to admit it.
That is incredible. Your smartwatch is basically telling you, hey, your stress isn't coming from your workout. It's coming from the fact that you haven't had a meaningful conversation in 3 days.
Precisely. The future of health and wellness has to expand beyond calories and fitness metrics. It must include stress regulation, emotional safety, and nervous system balance. We have to start viewing our relationships not just as social niceties, but as critical components of our biological health. A healthy relationship is quite literally a form of preventative medicine.
This whole conversation has completely shifted how I view my own life and habits. It makes you realize that calling a friend or sitting down to have a fully present dinner with your partner without phones, or even just giving someone a long, genuine hug, is not just a nice thing to do. It is a biological imperative. It is how we signal to our bodies that we are safe enough to heal, to rest, and to thrive.
It truly is. We are deeply emotional, biological beings, and the sooner we accept that our resilience depends on our connection to others, the healthier we will be. We have to intentionally design oxytocin back into our daily lives, because modern society is certainly not going to do it for us.
That is such a powerful call to action. We have to build the tribe back into our lives. Because connection is not simply an emotional luxury. It is neurological. It is hormonal. It is evolutionary. And it is the very foundation of our biology. Thank you so much for breaking this down in such a profound way. I do not think I will ever look at a simple conversation or a hug the exact same way again.
It has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for diving into this with me.
And thank you to everyone listening. If this conversation sparked something in you, maybe the best thing you can do right now is not to listen to another podcast immediately, but to put your phone down, reach out to someone you care about, and create a little bit of that biological safety for both of you. Protect your recovery, protect your nervous system, and above all, protect your relationships. We will see you next time.